It's me. There we go. Welcome everyone to Fuckup Nights Hamilton. This is our 6th volume. It also happens to be our 1-year anniversary. So we hosted our very first Fuckup Nights Hamilton about a year ago in a little co-working space called The Populace. We had 4 really awesome speakers that were joining us that night, and we had a really good turnout. It was intimate, and we laughed, cried, and shared all the emotions. And ever since then, all I've really wanted to do is just host Fuck Up Nights. So hopefully next year we'll be able to host twice as many. And like I said, we've done 6 of our local Fuck Up Nights, and we've also done 2 Canada-wide Fuck Up Nights, which was pretty fun too. So I am your Hamilton Fuck-Upper. My name is Anna DiCarlo. I'm the founder of Fuck Up Nights Hamilton. I am also the owner of Ford Events and Design, which is a small event planning company located here in Hamilton, which makes me an entrepreneur and very qualified to be your Fuck-Upper. I fuck up all the time, sometimes daily. I mean, your guess is as good as mine when that's going to happen. I discovered Fuck Up Nights about a year and a half ago. I went to my very first one in Toronto, and it was just a really cool, amazing experience. I was seated with like a whole group of people who were there to, share their fuck ups and speak openly about it. And it was relatable and it was comforting. And I think I left that night, convinced that I had to bring it to Hamilton because there's so many entrepreneurs here. And I think that it's just as important to acknowledge the fuck ups as it is to celebrate the successes, because, all in all, this is what makes us who we are, and this is what helps us to move forward both in our personal lives and in business. So here we are celebrating Fuck Up Nights. And if you didn't catch it at the beginning, this is our last Fuck Up Nights of 2020. This year has been just like a dumpster fire of shit. So I just thought, you know what, for December, let's take a little break. Let's start fresh in 2020. We already have 3 awesome speakers booked for January. And we've got some really cool stuff happening for next year as well. We're kind of toying with like a podcast. Maybe we'll do something like that. We'll see. But we've got some really good stuff for then. So stick with us. And we also want to take time to thank our sponsors and our supporters. So the Casbah Chronicle Photo Booth and our new supporter, the Ramblr Project. And if you are Hamilton born and bred, you've gone to the Casbah, you've probably had a lot of really late nights there. And, much like a lot of small businesses, they are struggling right now with everything being shut down. So if you can, check them out. If you can help them out in any way, please do. That would be awesome. But please also take a chance to check out all of our sponsors, Chronicle Photo Booth, who now does an online photo booth, which is really cool. And of course, the Ramblr Project, which you're going to hear more about later. So what is Fuck Up Nights? In life, in business, there's expectation, and then there is reality. Sorry, excuse me, I'm just reading something here. Reality is what we focus on. Fuck Up Nights has created a worldwide movement and community that shares stories of business and professional failure, the stories of the businesses that crash and burn, the partnership deals that go sour, the product that has to be recalled. We tell them all. This is Fuck Up Nights, Inc. And I have a little video here that will explain a little bit more. Enjoy.
This is the story of 5 friends. It was a Friday night in 2012 in Mexico City. After several mezcales, the friends decided they'd heard enough about success, and each decided to share a story about their failed projects. The conversation was so inspiring that they decided to do it again, but this time with even more friends. 2 weeks later, they did it again. The 5 friends all invited their friends, and they asked 3 people to share their biggest failures. That was the first Fuck Up Night. Sharing stories of failure was liberating. It was fun and authentic. So the friends decided to keep it going and organize Fuck Up Nights once a month. Turned out that people all over the world wanted to bring Fuck Up Nights to their city. So the 5 friends decided to take their project seriously and set a goal to bring Fuck Up Nights.
Sorry, everyone. Okay, so no one can see this video, basically. Is this what I'm hearing? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know why no one can see it, but at the end of the at the end of the night, I will put a link to this video. And until then, I'll just let you know a little bit about the background of Fuck Up Nights instead, which obviously isn't as exciting as this wonderful video, which clearly I'm the only one enjoying right now. But basically, Fuck Up Nights started in 2012. A group of friends in Mexico were in Mexico City were sitting around. They were at a party, and they were drinking. And when they left the party, one of the friends said to the group, everybody always talks about their successes and how good they're doing, but no one ever talks about their failures. And I really want to know, how are successful people fucking up? And from that, they decided to, every month they would have a little get together where each one of them would bring a different, professional to share their professional failure and their fuck ups. And that's essentially how Fuck Up Nights started. Again, not as exciting as this video. I apologize that no one can see it, but I will put the link in the chat at the end and you guys can check it out. And let's just go to the next slide here. Sorry, everyone. Technical difficulty. My apologies. Okay, here we go. There we are. There we go. So Fuck Up Nights is present in over 300 cities and 90 countries around the world. That's 47% of the world, which is incredible.
And I think that we still can't see. I can't.
You can't see the screen at all?
I can't see your slides. It's just a Zoom website.
Yeah. But all of you can only see the Zoom website? Oh my goodness. Yeah. I have no idea why that's happening. Okay, let me try restarting this again. So just give me 1 second here. Can everybody see that now?
We see you.
Okay, so just give me 1 sec here. I'm going to reshare my screen. I apologize. I mean, it would be a Fuck Up Nights. Wouldn't be a Fuck Up Nights without a fuck up. So here we go.
We got it.
Okay, so let me just go back here. And 1 second. My apologies, everyone. Grab a drink. Relax. Get more. Actually, I can tell everybody my fuck up at the beginning of the week. I spilled a latte all over my computer, and now it's completely just messed up. I got the call today about it, and so I'm using someone else's computer, and who doesn't have the appropriate program, which I'm streaming online. So this is part of the reason why this stuff isn't working. So my apologies. Okay, so now tell me, can everybody see this slide that is going to be loading momentarily? Can everybody see that? Okay, perfect. So as I was saying, that's 47% of the world. That's amazing. So last year, we told over 2,000 stories of professional failure. As well, we have a YouTube channel. I can't tell you exactly what the name is. It's like YouTube / because we don't have 100 subscribers yet. So please visit, subscribe, go to YouTube, search Fuck Up Nights Hamilton, and then you'll be able to enjoy our past Fuck Up Nights. And I encourage you to check them out because we've had some really cool speakers over the past year. So tonight, after each speaker speaks, there's going to be a short Q&A section. So you're able to put your questions directly into the Q&A. You're also welcome to interact with our speakers over the chat. I will be asking them questions and they'll be answering them for you. So our awesome speakers for tonight, we have Monika Benkovich, Amber Richardson, and Dan Pelosini, and they'll be joining us. And each one of them will be sharing their unique story of failure tonight. So before we get started with Monika Benkovich, we like to share 3 fun facts about each of our speakers. Monika is very fluent in Croatian. She has a fear of raisins, which I think is hilarious. I'm sorry that you're afraid of them. And David Bowie was pretty much the main influence for Church 44. She is a meditation and yoga teacher and the founder of Studio Space Church 44 in Hess Village. Before teaching others how to feel empowered in their bodies, Monika spent many nights fucking up. These experiences led her on a path to fully embrace all of the ways that brought her here. So without further ado, I introduce Monika, and I'm going to let Monika now take control of the screen so she can flip through and begin her chat.
Okay, I think I remember how to do this.
Yeah, and if you click again, you should have control now.
Okay.
Oh. Oh.
Okay.
You're definitely the host. Do you want to see about maybe asking to be the host? But you are the host.
Okay, let me see. Oh, I think I got it. Nope. Sorry.
Well, if you like, I can also flip through for you if it's not working right now.
Okay.
Just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Monika Benkovich, and as Anna was saying, I teach yoga and meditation. My background is also in apparel design, and I'm the creator and founder of Church 444, which is a movement and art studio in Hess Village. So when Anna asked me if I could be one of the speakers tonight, my first thought was, how much time do we have? Because the list of fuck ups just like downloaded right away. But I think I have 10 minutes, so we'll see how far we get. And I think we can go to the next slide. Awesome. So yes, so here is Church 444. We focus a lot on mental health and recovery, which is pretty cool that, we're located in Hess Village, which is a mini little Sin City here in Hamilton. We virtually launched in May of this year, which was very interesting considering we're in the middle of a pandemic. And our big focus has also been on community building and connecting with the community, as well as hosting yoga and movement classes online. So yes, it's been a very interesting thing to do during this time. We're constantly pivoting, constantly making things work. And then I think the next slide is ready. So before there was yoga, I grew up in downtown Hamilton. My parents owned a bar on Cannon and Wellington, which is where I really grew my love for people from all walks of life. And it inspired me to travel a lot and to really just, go for it and meet people and just have this like profound or this deep interest in people from all over the place. I lived in BC, where I worked very closely with people who struggle with drug addiction and mental health, as well as a freelance writer in San Francisco, where I just, spent my days living this Bukowskian dream of drinking a ton of wine and writing down my feelings and my stories with other people. So at the time, I was living out this amazing dream. I was, working in bars a lot, saving money so I could go and travel and do these awesome things and connect with people. But I was really struggling with going inwards and addressing, things that I was having issues with, like mental health and alcoholism. And the next slide, I think, is where the yoga comes in. Yoga really taught me to go inwards. And when I moved back to Hamilton, after traveling for, all of my 20s, I decided to take some classes at a yoga studio, De La Soul Yoga, right around the corner from my place. And I just really started to notice the power of yoga and, like sitting with yourself and going inwards, even though it was really, really hard. There was a little bit of a shift. So because I was constantly like going outwards and seeking, yoga was the first thing that brought me inwards and allowed me to address certain things that I hadn't for the first time. So 2016 comes around and I decide to take a yoga teacher training with the same studio, De La Soul Yoga. And after I graduated, I thought, shit, I'm like, I can't be a yoga teacher. Like, I've been smoking for 15 years. I drink all the time. I'm like, I listen to punk. Like, I like doing this, but I don't know if I can teach yoga. Something kept bringing me back though. And I was doing yoga at my house to punk rock music, and I was like, well, maybe other people might like this. Maybe there's other folks that are in my position that could use this practice that is so beneficial, but they feel the same way. They feel like, they're struggling and they're not a yogi, or they're not this idea of what a yoga person is. So the idea of punk rock yoga was born. And the main mission was to really just put it out there in places like bars and skate parks and nightclubs, places where I was still hanging out at quite a bit. And it started at Che in Hess Village, right around the corner where my studio is now, which is pretty cool. And just to like paint a scene for everybody here, if you haven't been to Che, it's like the punkest bar there is in Hamilton, I would say. So it's gone now, but at the time it was. So we would put our yoga mats on the floor, and by the end of the hour, you would like peel the yoga mats off, and the floor would be imprinted. And in the beginning, I was very, very nervous to teach, because it was this new thing for me. I'm like, I'm used to being in this space and like dancing on that table and taking a ton of shots at this table and throwing up in that corner, but I'm not used to teaching yoga in this space. So it was quite the transition, but I knew I had something and I had to stick to it, and I had to let it evolve. So as a result of that, it took me to some really cool places. And I think that's the next the next slide. Yeah. Thanks, Anna. So my first year of teaching this practice, this punk rock yoga, which was, if anybody is familiar with yoga, the style that it is like power yoga. So a lot of movement, breath work, a little bit of meditation. So that took me to some pretty cool places. Max Fish is another popular punky kind of bar in the Lower East Side of New York. Havana, Cuba. So this room right here was actually on Go Skate Day, in like a building that was like a concrete building that was like totally falling apart. There's like pigeon shit all over the floor, and we still did our punk rock yoga. The local skate shop here on John Street in Hamilton, Bong Mansion, which was like a creative, temporary creative art incubator from last year in Burlington, and the Hardy Hooligan on Ottawa Street. In the next slide, two highlights that really stood out that first year of coming up with this and teaching it was I got invited to teach punk rock yoga at Pooza Fest by Miggy Chen, who's the bass player for Teenage Bottle Rocket. And he's also an amazing yoga teacher. So I got asked to teach his class that he teaches every year at this punk festival in Montreal. And my class even made it to my home studio where I graduated at De La Soul Yoga. So this concept of bringing this yoga to people that wouldn't normally go to a yoga studio or maybe not feel comfortable right away, it was pretty cool that now this weird class was on the schedule at a yoga studio, and it was now attracting like a different crowd of people as well that were used to yoga, but it was something different for them as well. So that was pretty cool. But I was still not being completely honest with myself. And even though I was, I kept showing up. I think we can go to the next slide, I believe. Yes, thanks. So even though I kept showing up and there was something there, I wasn't being honest with myself completely, and my mental health was really struggling. And I could see that the more that I went into this practice of yoga and building my brand essentially, which I didn't really know I was doing at the time, My sensitivity to alcohol was growing, and I was kind of losing control of that. Perfect example of, of one rock bottom, or one turning point in all of this, was a famous first meeting of, it was Kali Ma Yoga at the time, before Church 444. And, we had this yoga meeting, the brand was growing. I was ready to take on a few more teachers at the time. And the meeting ended with like a lot of cocaine tucked into my Lululemon pants, and going to a nightclub with my yoga mat with me, and plastering like all my stickers everywhere. And then waking up the next day thinking, well, I teach punk rock yoga, so like I guess it's fine. But like knowing that it's not really fine, and it wasn't really where I wanted to be, and it definitely wasn't what I was teaching to my students, and how I wanted to be an authentic yoga teacher, or an authentic like teacher and student of this practice. So even though I felt like I really fucked up, it just pointed a broader lens of, where I still needed to do a little bit of work on myself. So one of the things was, getting honest with my drinking. It was very normalized, coming from a European family, growing up in the bar industry. There was no problems with alcohol. It was always a celebration or a reason to drink. It wasn't a big deal, but for me it was, because my life was changing, and I, because of yoga and stuff, I got to address that in a different way. So through that, I made some big decisions, and really just still struggled for a little bit, because I liked my identity too. I liked that I had something different. I liked listening to different music, but still teaching punk rock yoga and teaching all these different things in a different way. So there was a huge break in like letting go of things that were holding me back from really putting that out there even more. But also keeping that part of myself that I liked. So, as a result of that, I had to make some big decisions. I got sober. I made a lot of space. Identified relationships that were also a barrier for me at the time that I wasn't paying attention to as well. And yeah, I fucked up like, a lot more along the way too. But I kept going, and I think that was, and I'm glad that I did. So I think the next slide is, yes, takeaways. So what I learned, and what I, tell my students, because I'm very transparent about my life, but I was nervous to do this. Anna knows this. You will keep fucking up. And that's fine. If you learn from it, you're gonna just keep, if you're honest with yourself and learn from it, you're just gonna, accelerate even more. I often think that I'm currently living my biggest fuck up so far, which is opening this business, signing a lease, like in the middle of a pandemic. So right before there was a physical location for church, our first lockdown happened. So it's been a scary but exciting journey. But that's where I kind of bring up my last fuck ups. Like, what, I went through that, so this might help with pivoting here. Don't let your fuck ups dictate your goals. Who cares? You fucked up before. There's always, don't let that get in the way of what you're looking towards. If you're struggling, ask for help. There's so many resources in Hamilton. You are not alone in your struggles. You're not alone in your fuck ups. And two things that I always get asked, when I bring up yoga is, I'm not flexible and I'm not spiritual. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be either one of those things to do yoga. And that's it. Thank you.
Unmute myself here. That was amazing, Monika. Thank you so much for sharing that with all of us. I'm actually going to take a quick little photo here for the gram. So people who weren't able to join us tonight get a little glimpse into what we're talking about. So let's move on to your Q&A start here. I actually have a question for you.
Okay.
But before I can answer that question or ask that question, can you give me control back?
Well, yes.
Sorry about that.
Make host. Okay. I think I did it.
Okay, let me just check here. Yes, you did. Oh, and hold on a second here, guys. Man, tonight just feels like the night of 100 fuck-ups, all taking place right here. So just give me one quick second. Again, the slides gotten a little out of hand here. Let's go back to our questions, and everyone can still see, right? So let me just reshare my screen again. I'm telling you, tonight's just not my night. Okay, can everyone see the screen? Yeah. Okay. Phew. Okay. Oh, there we go. And let me just get, because I did see some questions, but in the meantime, you can answer my question, Monika. So, why is David Bowie such a huge influence for you, or a huge influence for the yoga studio?
That's a great question.
My boyfriend has like a huge David Bowie tattoo on his arm. Like, he loves David Bowie. And from the David Bowie fans that I've met, like, yeah, like they're just like, I mean, I like David Bowie too, don't get me wrong, but I'm just not like, what is it about him?
Yeah, we have a huge like mural of David Bowie in the studio, and all the rooms are named after David Bowie. I've always I love a lot of different genres of music, but I feel like David Bowie kind of encompassed and represented that evolution of self, and actually probably the biggest example of fucking up at reinventing yourself constantly and pushing yourself creatively, and having that freedom of creativity. So that's why I'm inspired by him, as well as just I love his music, but I think he really embodies that ultimate freedom, ultimate creativity, and owning your individuality, whatever that means.
That's awesome. Sorry, someone just messaged us in the chat just saying like, oh, I can't see myself, but I can just answer that really quickly because we're in a webinar style, so we can only see the speakers and we can't see all of your beautiful faces, so that's why. So let's see if we've got any other questions here. Feel free to ask. If not, you can always visit Church 444 if you like as well. Oh, okay, here we go. Here's another question. Why are you afraid of raisins?
I just don't like them. Like, I feel like I'm eating, well, I don't eat them, first of all, but just the texture of them and the way they look. Like, my friend, she chased me around with a bag of them, and I threw up. Like, I don't know what it is, but I just don't want to be near them. They freak me out, and I like, yeah, I just like, when kids pick their nose and they eat it, I'm like, that's raisins.
So that's what it reminds you of. Okay, fair enough. And then we have one more question from Myrtle. And how did you find the courage to take such big chances or risks?
Myrtle! I love Myrtle. Myrtle. That's a good question. Myrtle always has really great questions.
Yeah.
My mom is the bravest person that I know, and I look up to her a lot. She was 20 years old when she moved to Canada and ran a bar for 25 years. Didn't speak the language, had me. I was born there. She came here with me. So whenever I'm in a really tough situation, or I think like, oh shit, how am I gonna, get through this one? I really just look to my mother, and a lot of people in my life, right? My peers, my friends, my family that I look up to, and that I draw inspiration from other people in that way, to to brave through those moments. And also, like, looking back on fuck up successes, looking back through, like, my life and in what I've gone through, and that helps as well. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, hold on. So just two more things. Myrtle also says, very judgy. Raisins are just dried up wine. And the last question here is, how are you finally able to overcome your addiction with alcohol and cigarettes?
Yes, great question. So, people always, well, often people that are, in recovery or sober, say I was just ready, or it was the right time. I had tried a couple times, but it was really, I do credit yoga and movement, and just doing these things that were really out of my comfort zone, that put that lens, like close lens of like, why am I doing these things? Like, why it wasn't fun anymore. It was really fun for a while, and then it was really dangerous, and then it was like, why am I doing this? I'm not getting anything out of this anymore. So it was a combination of timing and then tools, that finally it clicked, and I was ready to. I quit smoking and drinking at the same time. So that helps as well, because they're like buddies. So.
Yeah, they go together really well. I know. Oh, are you talking, Amber? Because you're on mute. There we go.
You could hear me now?
Yes.
We were actually, I'm here with my best friend, and we were actually just laughing at the raisins is worried grapes comment that was coming up. And I'm like, okay, raisins as dried up wine is like probably the best way I've ever heard raisins be described. So like, that's what we're going to stick with.
Okay, and then we just got one final question, and then we'll move on to the next speaker. So what, if any, future fuck-ups are you looking forward to or are making?
Sorry, can I hear that again?
Yeah. What, if any, future fuck-ups are you looking forward to or are hoping to make? It's a weird question.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm interested in what I'm going to learn, and I guess fuck up from the whole experience of like, running a business during the pandemic. There's been fuck ups along the way for sure, a lot of learning curves. So I'm interested to see how that translates into the future as well. But I don't think fuck ups are bad things. So I'm excited about, whatever comes up. I will try to be ready for it, for sure.
Well, thank you so much. Again, thank you so much for sharing your fuck up story. It was awesome. And thank you for everyone for asking questions. And again, feel free you can reach out to Monika directly. You can join one of her yoga. I think you're doing online yoga, right? I think I saw, I'm following you along. You're doing a lot of online stuff.
Yes, so online for yoga and movement. Myrtle teaches a really great class on Saturdays, and workshops, and our co-working space, which launches next month, is so the studio is open. It's just the movement classes, the yoga classes are online.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I didn't even know that you were doing that. That's so cool. Okay, amazing. So let us move on to our next speaker. So I'm just going to share my screen here with everyone again. Hopefully this time it works. Here we go. This is exciting. Oh, and it's starting from the beginning. Sorry about that, guys. Tonight is just not my night. Oh, loading.
It's in celebration of the 1 year anniversary.
See, this is why I said this is going to be the last one of the year. And thank God. It's going to be so much better next year. I'll have a new computer and I won't have to deal with any of this stuff here. So let me just minimize this for 1 second, and then we will get to Amber, who is patiently Waiting for us to start. Okay, here we go. Everyone, welcome, please, Amber Richardson. 3 fun facts about Amber. She is obsessed with her dog, which I don't blame you for. I'm obsessed with my dog, obviously. They're the best. She collects vintage blazers and currently has 123 of them. No big deal, just a few in her closet. She's a huge Seinfeld fan and currently watches each episode at least 3 times a year. She was born and raised in Hamilton. After breaking free from the corporate hustle, she started Communicate PR and is finally living life on her own terms. As a true city lover, she loves to give back and is currently chair of the Hamilton Hive Organization. The Hive is dedicated to helping young professionals build their professional skill sets to strengthen their careers, which is just amazing. So welcome, Amber. And I'm going to be controlling the screen for you. So just let me know when you need me to switch and take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. That was a very in-depth intro. Of course, my name is Amber. I am self-employed in Hamilton here, and I love my city. So when Anna first asked me to do Fucked Up Nights, I was kind of taken back. I feel like in PR, we're always telling someone else's story and not necessarily their fuck up. So it really gave me a chance to kind of look in the mirror and reflect inward. So I'm really happy to be here. And thanks for having me, Anna. So let's move through to the first slide, conditioning my mindset, which happened kind of in the beginning of my journey and my story. So my first professional endeavor, let's say, was Primerica. It's one of the best companies I've ever worked for, worked with, and researched. And, you know, it had such a great community, but there was always something missing. It wasn't a passion of mine. Life insurance wasn't a passion. I love the people and I love the mindset it gave me. But, you know, after failing my 3rd provincial life insurance exam, it just really wasn't for me. So, you know, everything they did was so good. And I use it in my entrepreneur life today. Everything from, you know, Myers-Briggs personality to Think and Grow Rich to The Secret. You know, I'm really thankful for, you know, fucking up those couple of years and, you know, spending that time with them. So after I failed the provincial exam 3 times, I feel like it was a little bit of depression, you know, just having something that you worked on for so hard not come to fruition is a little bit hard on the mental state. So I started a call center job. We worked for Nissan in the US, and you know, it went good. I worked there for about 1.5 years. I got what the corporate like to call a lateral promotion, which basically means they give you more work and more responsibility, but no more money. So I took a look around at what was available in that job setting. And, you know, after 10 years of working, you were really looking at like a $35,000 to $45,000 income, which, you know, what wasn't working for what I had in mind for myself. So, back to the drawing board, take 3. I realized that I had to go back to school and get that education portion done. So we can go to the next slide, Anna. And I took marketing at Mohawk College, and it was honestly one of the best things I did. That as well gave me some of the tools that I use. Obviously, the hard skills of went on to do my PR as well, but also just skills like create routines, having to be somewhere at a certain time, creating that routine for success on something that you're passionate about is really what I got out of college. Expanding mental capacity. Sorry, let's move forward to the next slide, Anna. Basically what that means to me is like learning how to learn. There are some courses that are hard there, you know, that I failed a few times, but you never gave up and you just eventually passed those courses and learned how to, you know, learn a subject more in depth. So that came from many years of practice there, and to stay self-motivated, because at the end of the day, no one really gives a shit if you show up to class or not. The computer can just easily give you a 30 as a 90. So, you know, it made us really work for what we wanted. So moving on to the next slide, we graduated in 2014 and we were ready to take over the world and climb that corporate ladder, or what we thought we wanted. So that's us on our, I feel like that's the picture on our last final exam of our final semester. And it was such a relief to do that. So moving on to the next slide, we graduated 2014. And I was lucky enough to work in the communications department of Mohawk while I was a student. So I had a little bit of communication background. So I started as a marketing assistant and then got the dream job of marketing manager in Toronto. So going on to the next slide, I call it a corporate sellout because I don't know at what point I decided to sacrifice my passions for the illusion of success, but I felt like that was continuously happening at that job. Going on to the next slide, I talk about smoke and mirrors of the corporate world. I feel like the team that I worked with, we all knew that, you know, we were all parents, we all had families like everyone is. Everyone has families, everyone, you know, has something that they need to take care of when they get home. So we kind of conditioned ourselves to believe that, yes, we're sacrificing. For me, it was my family, but we're working to give them things they wouldn't otherwise have. And in the corporate world, you know, you do a team building skill at a nice spa, or you get a lunch, or they serve you breakfast once in a while, just to kind of boost your spirits, I feel, and kind of give you a reassurance that you're doing a great job. But really, I wasn't. My workday looked like getting up at 5:30 in the morning, not being able to take my kids to school ever. I don't even honestly remember those years, to be quite frank. They just zoomed by. Getting home at about 8:20 at night. So if you have young ones, they're already to bed. And it was 12 to 14-hour days, and it was just extremely draining. I found myself 50 pounds heavier, depressed, health was going down. It was just not a good time. So moving on to the next slide, we took the leap in 2017 and started our own business. It was the best thing that we've ever done. Living free. I mean, we thought it was going to be a lot freer than it is. There's still those 12-hour days happening, but it's something that you love to do. You can do it in, you know, whatever environment you inspires you at that time. And most importantly, you can do what you actually love to do instead of, you know, being the paper pusher for someone else's marketing plan dream that may or may not ever come to fruition or you would ever get credit for. So moving on to the next slide now, you know, I've never missed a family dinner. I've never missed taking my kids to school on the first day, or Christmas pageants, which I didn't even really know that parents went to be honest, until I became an entrepreneur, because who has time to do that? So it was a good look in the mirror. And, you know, I'm really happy for all the paths of life that brought me to where I am today. Some end notes that I wanted to leave with everyone on the next slide is really never stop searching for that passion. I thought I found my passion so many times, but if you don't love getting up in the morning and doing what you do every day, it's not your passion. And don't settle, I would say, and just keep searching for that. Make sacrifices for the important things, the actual important things. It's really easy to just have a tunnel vision, especially as a young person coming out of school, to just climb that corporate ladder and do what they said that you should be doing. So sorry about that. So, you know, just make sure that you know what the important things are, know what your priorities are, and really work with that. Learn something from every mistake. I would like to say that I don't make the same mistake twice, but I have. So, you know, that does happen, but embrace the fuck ups. At the end of the night, you know, you only have yourself to look in the mirror. You can come home, have a glass of wine. That's kind of my release at the end of some days, just to kind of relax, analyze your fuck up, see what happens, see how you're not going to do that again, and where you're going to go from there. So those are kind of the takeaways and the biggest fuck ups of my life. And of course, you know, more to come.
Awesome, Amber.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Personally, I related to all three of your fuck up stories, but there was a lot that I related to with Amber's, just because I kind of I myself went through that whole thing where I sort of like devoted myself to work. And, you know, at one point I was like, oh, I have no life. I'm super stressed out. I don't feel well. I'm exhausted all the time, but I'm young. Like there was just all these things that were, you know, and then I was like, okay, it finally clicked. And I was like, all right, I need to actually do something about this. So let's see if we've got any questions. We'll get into the question and answer period here. Nicole says that this resonates. Applause, applause. That corporate thing resonates so much. Not worth it. Thanks for sharing. And I couldn't agree more with
Yeah. I mean, I think the first fear you have is like, you're not going to be able to make up the money that you lost in corporate. But then when you get into entrepreneurship, you realize that, you know, there's so much more out there that you didn't even think about. So don't ever think that you're not going to be okay. And as long as you believe that you can, you will.
Yeah. And we have another question here from Myrtle. How did you find the courage to take such big chances or risks?
I honestly go back to, you know, Primerica, and I always bring them up in a good light, even though I don't work with them, because they really self-built my character to, you know, if your mind can achieve it, or if you can believe it, if your mind can believe it, you can achieve it type mindset. And it really just works for me. Those books, The Secret, Think and Grow Rich, always just try and keep learning and expanding your mind, and your mindset will shift. And when that happens, entrepreneurship is a breeze. So I'm, you know, always incredibly thankful for that company for doing that. I did fuck up a lot of times working on a career I didn't actually take, but the silver lining was learning how to, you know, work on your actual mind to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's so true. All it takes is a shift in your mindset.
Yes.
Just kind of like, it'll seem like everything's starting to fall into place, but really it's just from looking at it in a different way, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was definitely, I totally get that. There were times where I was just like, had such a shitty outlook on things. And then it's just a shift in the same, you know, things were happening, but it's just the way that I was approaching it, which made life so much easier.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just see if we have any other questions, anything else in the chat. Okay, and so again, if anybody does have any questions, feel free, you can reach out to Amber directly on social media. You can find her on our social media. We've linked to her, and as well, definitely check out the Hamilton Hive. That's the correct name, right? Hamilton Hive.
Yes.
What a cool, inspiring and supportive organization. I was actually a follower and a fan before I asked you to be a speaker. So like tremendous work, like great job.
It's a really good organization to, you know, help the young professionals on their career. And it's not just young professionals. That could mean someone who's 40 years old that's starting out a whole new career path. We're trying to get away from that young, because we're not young anymore.
I hear you. I started my business at like 36, 37.
Yeah, and very common. So yes.
Yeah, it was crazy. Okay, so let us move on to our final speaker of the night. I'm going to be sharing my screen with everyone again, so you can take a look here. And Dan, do you want me to control the screen, or do you want to give it a shot?
I can give it a shot, but for how it's going, it looks like I think you're gonna end up having to do it. So
I mean, we'll try, see if it works. Hopefully it does. So just give me 1 second here to share this with everyone. For some reason, I just can't get out of the screen. Here we go. Just give it a sec to load here. Again, I apologize to everyone who's tuned in and who has to wait for me to organize all this stuff every single time. But again, I went to put my latte down and I put it down on the remote control to the TV because for some reason I couldn't do my work that day without having the TV on, and this is what happens. So I apologize. Working on somebody else's computer is just awful. I feel like I'm in somebody else's home right now. I'm just trying to find my way around. Okay, so here we go. Got your slides up here, and let us get started. So our next speaker is Dan Pelosini, and as soon as this loads, we'll be able to tell you a little bit about him. I'm going to give you control. So Dan is an avid doodler. He is an avid backpacker. A little bit more about him. He is also he works for an electrical company, but he's also a yoga teacher in training. And he runs a not-for-profit organization called the Ramblr Project, which is dedicated to helping individuals connect and learn about mental health and personal growth. They provide a platform for individuals to share their stories through podcasts, blogs, videos, and events. You should definitely check it out afterwards. There's some pretty awesome and inspiring stuff there. So without further ado, I leave it to you, Dan. Go ahead.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I think you're good now. Yes. Okay, perfect.
Sweet. We got it.
Yes.
All right. As mentioned before, and the name's there. My name's Dan Pelosini, and I started the not-for-profit called the Ramblr Project. It was started off based from struggle, which I will get into. And pretty much what the Ramblr Project is, it's a platform that I created for individuals to connect, share, and learn about mental health and personal growth. So what I wanted to do was create a space where they could see all these resources in a common place and share amazing initiatives and other individuals out there like Monika and what she does at Church 444 and a lot of other community things as well. So it's one place where we can find a lot of resources, like-minded people, and it's a community. And as mentioned before, we do blogs, podcasts, where we want to get into public speaking at events, but as everyone knows with 2020, it's been a bit of a challenge. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself and the brand. So starting off here, we're going to take a trip back to January in 2018. And this is before the Ramblr Project. And at this time, I was at an all-time low. I had my first complete breakdown. And when I say breakdown, physically, mentally, and emotionally, I was in so much pain. And it was from pretty much a suppression of anxiety and emotions and so much thoughts and misunderstanding that I kind of blame the dynamic I came up in the sense of I was in like a hockey culture. A lot of my friends were guys, and talking about what we're going through just wasn't a thing. And there was this narrative and this dialogue that just kept getting reinforced that, you got to man up, be tough. You'll get through this, and all these words that I just kept living by, thinking that, oh yeah, I'll be tough. I'll tough it out. Well, January 2018, I found out that you can only do that for so long, and things broke. I just needed somebody to talk to. I ended up going to talk to my neighbor, which kind of acted like a therapist in a way. And I went to her house and we had a great conversation, and I pretty much just opened up everything I was going through. I didn't have any connection to what I was going through. I was so nervous and so anxious that I had that. I don't know if anyone else has been there before, but I had that wake up call where it was like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I here? I didn't feel like I was living my life. I felt like I chose the wrong career. I felt like I was on the wrong path. I felt like I should be anywhere else but where I was. And I had so much attachment to that thought that it just caused, like, I think that was also causing factor to the catastrophic kind of breakdown that I had. So what ended up happening with this conversation with my neighbor was, she kind of suggested, well, what if you started like enabling these things? Like I had a huge creative side that I was always scared to activate. Because I was worried what people would think. That's not very masculine, like what's the hockey friend's going to think of someone who wants to be creative and do things such as art and draw and even release a brand and talk about mental health. So she's like, what if you started doing one of those things? And we had a further conversation, and she explained a trip that she took to Peru that kind of like enlightened her. So I was just like, oh my God, like I should go to Peru. Like that'll solve all my problems. And she could have said anywhere. She could have said Mongolia. She could have said right down the road to Brantford. And I would have been like, I'm going right there. This sounds like it's going to solve all my problems. Like, everything will be okay. And that was my eject button. And so it was kind of, I love the term fight or flight, because literally 2 weeks, I'd say literally a couple days. And then 2 weeks later, I was actually currently on a flight. So I literally took the flight. I took the flight over fighting what I was going through. And I just thought I could run away from my problems. I thought I'd have some sort of wake up call once I got there. I thought I would find everything I was looking for once I got there. I thought I'd be healed. I thought like problems just disappear. I can just put everything on hold, put life on hold and go over there, and my anxiety and all this, everything I was going through would just be gone. So pretty much what happened was I had a consecutive flight. So I landed in Lima, Peru, and I was there for a layover. I believe, overnight, and then flew directly to Cusco, which is like your entry point for Machu Picchu, which everybody knows Machu Picchu. But I recommend looking at the rest of Peru if you're, when all this clears up, if you plan on going to Peru, please check out the rest of the country. It's amazing. So anyways, I had this layover in Lima. So I only had a little bit of cash that I took out ahead of time. And I spent all that cash there. I'm like, I'll get to Cusco. I'll be able to take out more money from the ATM. It'll be good. Everything will work out. And as I said before, I literally booked a flight, got on the plane, went. And I had done one backpacking trip previously, and it was with a tour. So everything was sorted out for you. And I think in this time, in the headspace I was in, I was so foggy, and I just didn't realize the preparation that was needed into a solo backpacking trip. I guess I should mention that as well. Like, it was a solo backpacking trip, literally booked a flight, got on it by myself, packed a backpack, and just thought I'd figure it out. So when I got onto the plane to fly to Cusco, my phone was really low. I'm like, I'll plug my phone on the plane. It'll be perfect. Once again, here's me thinking everything will fall into place because I'm running away, and that's how you solve life. And there was no available charge ports for my phone. So I got off the plane in Cusco. I had a dead phone. I had no money. And as I soon found out, I had no access to money once I got to the airport. So there was a lot of problems going on. And of course, everything information wise to where I was going to the hostel in Cusco was on my phone, as well as Google Translate, which is vital in countries like that, especially when there's a massive language barrier. And so I did have a debit card, but as I was warned before, but the gray matter and everything in front of my face that kind of restricted me from listening to people. You have to get a certain type of debit card to work in these ATMs in South America. I didn't have that debit card, so I couldn't access any money. So I'm in the airport right here. I have no phone, no money, no language. Like, I couldn't speak the language, and everyone seemed to speak Spanish at the time, or the area of the airport I was in. So here comes the panic, here comes the anxiety, here comes the worry. This was the first time in my life I didn't have a lifeline. I had no one to call. I couldn't reach out to my parents. I couldn't reach out to a friend. Nobody could solve these problems but me. And it was such a shock to me because up until this point, I was 23 years old. Up until this point, I've never been put in this situation before. I'd never been put in a situation where Dan Pelosini, had to figure everything out on my own. So I crumbled. I started just to fold up. I had no idea what to do. And growing up a really anxious person, I had no other choice but to open up. But I was just so nervous. Like, how do I talk to people? What do I do? Like, how do I communicate? Like, they're going to think I'm such a loser. Like, who's this guy who just didn't even come on this trip, not prepared at all? And as the time went on, I realized, okay, what do you do, Dan? You're just going to stay here. You're going to sleep in the airport. You're going to waste your whole trip. You can't run back home. You spent all this money on this trip. So I had to start flagging people down. I got a lot of rejections. People couldn't speak English. I was trying to talk with my hands a lot a bit. Maybe it's my Italian nature. I don't know. I was trying to point and talk, and it just didn't work out. So I ended up flagging down someone who looked like another tourist who knew a little bit of English, and they led me to the taxi stand. And I knew I had to go to some hostel called Rover. I couldn't figure out the whole name. I couldn't figure out the front of it. And I kept saying Rover, Rover, Rover. And all the cab drivers are looking at me, trying to get money off me. Once again, I had no money. So I think it was the sixth cab driver that knew a little bit of English. And he was the only one that actually trusted me, some tourist with a backpack, that I would pay him once we got to where we had to go. So I'm really grateful he trusted me, because now the air cab drivers they hassle you. They want money up front, or they just want to take your money. I'm really thankful for the person that helped me out in the airport. But in that moment, I was so proud of myself. I remember grinning and smiling in the cab. I'm like, I had this weird feeling within my body. I'm like, what just happened? Like, I've never done that in my life. And I don't know if anybody's had this realization before, when you've done something that's just so new, but it's so easy, something that you just, like, I was living in this little box up until that moment. And then I just broke free of that box. And I'm just thinking, wait, I talked to this random guy in an airport. I was talking my hands and broke this language barrier without having Google Translate. Like, who am I? Like, what else am I capable of? So I showed up at a hostel, and it's just full of other tourists. And if anyone's solo backpacked who's listening to this or will be listening to this, if you don't communicate with other travelers, if you don't communicate with other people, period, you will not make it very far backpacking. You will not go on trips. You will not make it from point A to point B. You will not get good food. You will not find where to go. You will not meet amazing people. You have to communicate with people, and you meet the most amazing people that share the most amazing stories, that do the most amazing things. And in that moment, I had so much confidence from that experience. I took it into the hostel, and for the next 2.5 weeks, I had an amazing experience. The life lessons I learned in those 2.5 weeks that I came home with was something that I never thought I would get. And I know I started the story off by saying that I was running away from my problems, which I was, but I ended up running away from my problems and facing a massive problem that ended up helping me overcome so many things that I was going through and struggling with before I even left. So, as I said before, I had so much pride. I learned accountability, responsibility, problem solving skills, communication skills that I never had before. So what ended up happening was, as I said before, it was transformational. I ended up going on another 5 backpacking trips after that. 4 of those, 4 in 4 different continents, and 3 of those were actually solo backpacking trips. So I was hooked, and I was just hooked on the idea of like, I can connect with as many people without having to go through my phone and go on Instagram and communicate to somebody through my friend. Who is that? What's their story? But it's like, why don't you go ask them? Why don't you go learn? And why don't you go experience what they have to show? And what ended up happening was that was the evolution of the Ramblr Project. I always had this creative space within me, and I still have anxiety. I still have struggles, but now I can communicate about it. And a lot of my friends, especially as I said before, the guys had no one to share to. So I wanted to create a platform that just seemed really mainstream, that could build a community for these people that didn't have a voice and give them a voice. And everything that happened over those 2.5 weeks really got the ball rolling. And I think it was less than a year later, the Ramblr Project evolved to what it is today, with a lot of individuals sharing and speaking and using the platforms that are out there to share their story and learn about things and resonate with them. So it's been an unbelievable experience. And I went a bit too far. And I just wanted to kind of leave with these 3 little notes right here. And I didn't realize the amount of growth I could have in discomfort and uncomfort. Looking back now, of course, I would have brought a portable phone charger. Of course, I would have brought the proper debit cards. Of course, I would have looked into my trip ahead of time. But maybe looking into all those things and looking into what I had to do, maybe I would have never booked that ticket. Maybe I wouldn't have taken that leap or made that jump. And to make that jump and to be in that discomfort, that's how I found myself. So I did make a big mistake looking back now, and I wasn't so much discomfort, but what I got out of it was game changing to me. And it took this social anxious kid, it took this nervous kid, this mess, this kid that had no purpose, and it evolved him into somebody that maybe he always knew was deep down, but it evolved to someone he could share with other people. And it was just very special. So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks a lot. So listening to my story.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
I know you did.
That was really, really awesome. And wow, I can't imagine anything scarier than not really like having been like a traveler and then just deciding you're going to up and go somewhere and you don't really have any idea what you're doing or where you're going. And that would be terrifying. I can only imagine what you learned on top of what you already took out of that experience. The other things you learned, just like the basic, travel stuff.
Yeah. Did I give you the screen back? Sorry, Anna.
Let me just check here. Yeah, I have it back. That is perfect. So we have Nicole Frazier said, that moment when you realize you were so capable, good for you. Applause, applause. Yeah, absolutely. That is amazing. So we have some time for some Q&As. I actually have a question for you. So when is it that you started the Ramblr Project?
I started it would have been, I should know this, October 2018.
Sorry, October when?
2018. It started off actually as like a clothing brand, and then January 2019, it evolved to, I'd say, more of this platform. And then in August 2019, it became a not-for-profit.
And when did you decide to switch it? Like, what was the moment, or what was the inspiration that you decided to switch it from a clothing brand over to a platform?
I think I saw what it could become. I think I saw a much greater value in helping others and learning and even helping myself, becoming that platform and becoming that not-for-profit over just being a clothing brand that helped share posts or share stories and that sort of thing. So I saw greater value, and I saw something that could grow into I saw something that can grow to become something more. So that's kind of the reason.
Yeah, that's awesome. And have you personally, I mean, I obviously follow your podcast, and I follow you on social media, and I I'll check it out from time to time. Have you personally, would you say, obviously, that you've learned a lot from the people that you've interviewed and the people that you've spoken to?
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, I just had a conversation right before this with the co-host of the podcast, Matt Ravita, who's also a mental health advocate, I'd say. And the amount that we've intaked through listening to all these stories is unbelievable. It's just expanded my mind, and I never thought that I would understand things like depersonalization disorder. I never would be able to understand trauma. I'd never be able to put myself in people's shoes, and I still can't, but I can understand a little bit better. And it adds so much perspective to me, and it actually does help me because you realize everybody is going through something.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the courage in these people to come on this podcast or come on our platform and share. And it just, like, Monika came on and she was on one of the podcasts and she shared as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so motivating when people share, and you do learn so much, I think, and whatever way you look at it, there's value.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I mean, like I said, when we got to do rehearsal earlier this week, and I got to hear all of your fuck up stories, I was related to each one of them, and I think that without even planning it, we all came together, and each one of you brought a story of professional failure that was also linked to mental health in one way, and now more than ever, especially with everything that's been happening all around us and happening to us personally. And then on the flip side of that, a lot of people, their jobs and, their careers and, businesses that they've spent their whole lives building, they're like, falling apart right now. And I think that more than ever, it's so important for us to confide in each other and to speak with each other and to, depend on those resources, whether it's the yoga or it's the Ramblr Project or it's the Hamilton Hive. Like, I think that it's now is a good time as any to start reaching out and start
For sure.
relying on those.
Dan, just in regards to your trip to Peru, I love that story so much. But to learn all of those skills in a 2-week a 2-week time period must have been so out of your comfort zone, and like you paid in less time but more discomfort. So I applaud you for that, for sure.
Yeah, it's powerful when you get to be yourself. And I don't know why, but I was always scared to be myself at home. And then I came back and I kind of, as it evolved. So it's cool when you're by yourself because you don't know anybody. You have no one else to be but yourself, and they don't know
It's
anybody.
just you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, well, again, thank you to all three of you for joining us and for sharing your stories. If anything, we always hope that obviously Fuckup Nights is fun and it's interesting, but we hope that if anything, it inspires other people to come forward and talk about their fuck ups, and also just take comfort in the fact that people fuck up. Like this is what we do. It's just part of being human. It's just it's just part of the journey, right? So let me get our screen back up here and say a few things before we take off. Again, let's see, there's something here in the chat. Oh, okay. So that is so this is from Lyal. She just says, that is a cool point. I always felt like going somewhere you could be brand new because there wouldn't be any impression of you. So she's speaking in regards to you, Dan. I've known some people who completely reinvented themselves when they moved. Thank you to all the speakers tonight. You were lovely, and I'm inspired by all of you. That is lovely.
Thank you.
It's so funny because there's one place that I know a lot of my friends have gone to, which is Thailand, and they come back and they're like completely different people. So Thailand has this like effect on people. I don't know what it is, but I've had a lot of friends go to Thailand and just like come back completely changed people. So it's a place that I'm gonna have to visit one day when we're allowed to like leave the house and stuff like that. That'll be fun.
Hopefully soon.
I know. I hope so. Again, thank you so much. So everyone joining us, if you have an opportunity, please check out these lovely speakers and check out what they're doing and check out what they're doing for the community and for you as well. Feel free to reach out to them directly. A few things before we go. So we also create private fuck up nights for large companies and small companies. And when we can be live again, this is going to be something that maybe you'll want, to bring to your own company, stand up and look. Remember when we used to like sit with everybody and just like enjoy something together. So this is going to come back again one day soon. So definitely keep Fuckup Nights in mind. Fuckup Nights has also worked with some of the best clients in the world. So it's definitely a world-renowned company, and it's just building more and more steam. And there's also the Failure Institute, which is a digital subscription that you can subscribe to. And as always, feel free to check us out on Instagram at Fuckup Nights Hamont. Give us a like. There's lots of stuff in there. Our website is relaunching in January. And as well, you'll have an opportunity when it launches to join our mailing list. We send out a newsletter once in a while. It's not all the time. And we only ever send out stuff when we have like interesting things to share with you. And it's usually only really about our speakers anyway. So again, thank you so much to everyone who joined us tonight. Thank you so much,
Anna.
speakers. You guys were so awesome. I really enjoyed meeting all of you and listening to your stories. And I hope that we get to meet each other in person one day. And for anyone watching, if you have any speaker recommendations or you want to speak yourself, please reach out. We got lots and lots of room for you for next year. So thank you again, everybody.
Perfect.
Great night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.